Hey guys, welcome to the Whimsical Workshop. In this video, I'm going to share with you a new line of fabric from Northcott and what we did with it. So let's get started. Yay! A few months back, Northcott sent us a line called Stonehedge White Christmas, and we took that line and we created a pattern that makes 3 projects. Here is a sneak peek of the pattern. In the pattern, we share with you how to make the wall hanging using the focal panel in the group, how to do the placemats, and how to do the runner. So in the video here, I am going to show you how to make this funky triangle block, and then you can take that block to do placemats, runner, or we're going to make a table topper out of it today. So let's take a peek at the fabric they sent us. So here is the panel, the Christmas tree panel. It is quite a beautiful panel. All the ornaments have gold metallic on it. And then down here we have the snowflakes that we use in the corners of the border. So we'll sneak back over here to look at that. So those snowflakes are these guys down here. We're just fussy cutting them out. So we are trying to utilize the entire panel. It is a 23, I guess you would say it's a 24-inch wide panel. So if you're interested in using this pattern for other collections to showcase a panel, just measure it up. If it's a 24-inch panel, this pattern will work for you. So let's show you the coordinates. It is quite pretty. I have to say that I was really excited to work with this group when I saw it, because I know just soft golds and whites together, it just feels very festive yet elegant. First up, we have the pine needle branches, and those branches, though it's hard to see on the camera, they are metallic. So all of the stem is metallic, and then there's a little flecks of metallic throughout the pine needles. And so there is that fabric. Next up is probably one of my favorites in here. I am a sucker for stripes, and it is a beautiful gold and silver stripe. And again, they only used gold metallic in here, so I think it's really pretty how they put the gold on the tan and then did the gold on the silver. So you have one that kind of blends and then one that contrasts. And let me get up close up here for you can see that. And it's just a really elegant stripe. Then we've got the packed snowflakes. And again, the gold ones are metallic, the silver ones are not. And that gives it such a unique contrast. And we did use this as the center parts of our blocks. Next up is the actual gold snowflake. So it's white snowflakes on gold. And there are some gold accents in here. And again, they do a really good job of, first of all, the hand. You cannot feel that there's been anything applied to the fabric. And second, their balance of using metallic to matte fabric is very well done. It's not over the top or gaudy looking. Then we have the really pretty Christmas ornaments. Then up next we have the words, and they did the words in a tan, and it's all Christmas sayings, as well as in the words here are done, the gold words are metallic and the silver ones are flat again. So we have the words, a close-up here of the ornaments. So you can just see how detailed some of those are. Whoops, sorry. There we go. Just very pretty. All right, so this is the little triangle block that we made, and then we took this triangle block and turned it into the placemats and the runner blocks. And I'm gonna walk you through how to make it. It does look like a complex triangle block, but it's actually very simple. And we're going to use a couple of different tools for this. So to start with, the base of the block is a kitty cornered block or a kite block. And Creative Grids created a ruler that makes this super slick and super easy to do. It is the kitty cornered ruler. It looks like this guy right here, and I'm gonna walk you through the steps making my block using this ruler. The instructions for the pattern, we give you the instructions in cutting for both traditional cutting, so there are templates in the pattern that you can use to cut those triangles. Or if you follow the cutting directions, it'll say for ruler, and it'll tell you what to cut for the ruler instead of traditional. So everything's covered in the pattern if you need to get that to reference to it. So what we do is we cut the pieces for the kitty corner block first, and this is the pieces we're going to need for that. And that will make this block right here. So I'm going to walk you through how to cut those and then how to sew it and get to this unit. So first up, you're going to cut the pieces the way the ruler tells you, and they tell you unit A, which they show you right here, is the kite, which is this piece. Let me get you a block that's not busy. This is what we're working on first. So you can see here this kite shape is A, and it says for A we are making a 6-inch finished. So we need to cut 2 7-inch squares. So that's what we've got here. And then for the B pieces, which look like this, it says for B, for that size, you need to cut a 4.5 by 7 1/4, which we've cut here. We're gonna make 2 blocks at a time. So you're gonna need 2 7-inch squares and then 2 of the rectangles. And then once you've got those, you go ahead and you take the 7-inch squares and you press them, fold them and press them. And I recommend using an iron, so let me go do that. All right, so once you have these pressed, you go ahead and you take the ruler and you go to, it's a good thing we have white fabric here so I can show you. It says step 1 right there, which is lovely. And it says fold square diagonally and place fold on this line. So we folded this diagonally. We're going to place the fold on that line. There we are. Just make sure that little corner part tucks under there, because otherwise it is hard to see. And let me just scoot this up so you guys have a much better view. There we go. Sorry for the light reflection. I've still not figured out how to avoid that. All right, so again, tuck that in, make sure it's aligned. That's aligned. Then you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna take your rotary cutter and you're gonna cut this. Now, I have taken 4 or 5 of these, folded them and pressed them and cut them all at once. If your first time you use this, I recommend cutting 1 at a time. But as you get further into it, you can cut them in stacks. So there is the kite shape. And again, we need 2 of those, and that will become clear in just a second why we're cutting 2 at a time. All right, again, align it and cut it. And then these are scraps you can use for something else. There we go. So there's our 2 kites. Now, to cut the side pieces, you're gonna need 2 of these rectangles. Now, I'm using a white fabric that doesn't have a right side or a wrong side, but if you used a print fabric, you would want to place fabrics right sides together, or you can do them wrong sides together. You just want to make sure that either all of the good print is on the outside or all of it is on the inside. So do follow the note. It tells you right here to remind you, and it says it yields 2 blocks, so that helps. Now it tells you step 2, and you align the straight edge of this with the rectangles. And I'm going to go ahead and cut. And you'll notice the ruler doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. Oh, it would help if I'm on camera. All right, so you align the straight edge with the ruler and you go ahead and cut the diagonal, and you're gonna notice here, the ruler doesn't go all the way to the end. It's only 1/4 inch. You can just match up to it, you're good. Because again, we're gonna make these bigger and we're going to trim them down. So it's okay if we're not perfect, which is why I love these rulers. So we've got that cut. Now, if these were print fabrics, this would be the right side of this piece, and this would be the right side of that piece. So out of 1 stack, you would get a left and a right, and that is why they have you do 2 at a time, because you're gonna end up with 2 units that give you 2 lefts and 2 rights. So now that we have all of that cut, we're gonna go ahead and you sew 1 piece onto your kite like this, and then you're going to take this other piece and sew this piece onto the kite. Now, when you're sewing these pieces onto your kite, you want to sew from this right angle side. So on this piece, I sewed it starting at the top, and then on this piece, I would actually flip the whole thing over and start sewing it at the top. I don't know if it makes a difference, but it seems easier to me, so that is how I do it. So then once you have both of those done, once you have both of those sewn, there it is, that's what you end up with. And now we need to trim it to size. And we're gonna again go back to our ruler and we're gonna do trim number 1, which is this point here. You can see it says trim number 1 and point. Trim number 2 is when we're going to be trimming this side. So trim 1 takes care of the top and the right, and trim 2 will take care of the left and the bottom. And there's this little chicken feet symbol right there, and that goes in the corner of the kite. And then this diagonal line should align with this out here. It's not going to be a perfect alignment, but it is going to be close, and you just want to make sure you've got that. And then you just go ahead and you trim out the side and the top. And we're going to rotate the entire block. And now we have here, it says 6 inches. That's the size we're trying to have. That is your finished size. So I'm going to align that on the square. And again, check that that diagonal is going all the way through to that corner. So once you've got everything aligned, you go ahead and you trim the side and top again, which were the bottom and left, but there we go. So now we have our kitty cornered block. This is the base for our triangle. So we're gonna make, for the project I'm doing today, we need 16 of these. So we're gonna go ahead and get those made, and then we need to add these squares onto the 4 corners, and we're gonna use a method called flip and sew for that. And so how that works is your first, there's lots of different ways to do this. I have found this to be the most accurate way. And what I do is I take my triangles, and a lot of times you'll read the pattern and it'll say draw a line from point to point. You're only using 2 floating points to align your ruler. So what I like to do, this is a folded corner clipper. This is the extra large size from Creative Grids. They also have a small one, and there's other ruler companies that make one called the folded corner clipper. Same name, same type of ruler. These guys are the ones that make the big one, which I really love because you can do triangles all the way up to 10-inch squares. So you're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna align this ruler with my 3.5-inch square. Now, instead of 2 points in the air, I can align the top of the ruler, the side of the ruler, the 3.5-inch line on the ruler, as well as this diagonal to make sure all of those sides are lined up. Now, when I draw my line, it will be right where I need it. Go ahead and draw it. You're gonna do this to all your squares. Then you're gonna take this square and you're gonna lay it on, where's my guy? You're gonna lay it on your kite shape, and we're gonna lay it on top of the big gold end. And we want on here, if you look, this is a really big triangle and this is a small triangle. Small triangles always are gonna point out when you're doing this technique. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay that on there. And then I'm gonna take it over to the machine. Now I am still gonna sew from point to point, and my 1/4-inch foot is gonna ride along that drawn line. So there it is sewn. And you can see my 1/4-inch foot was on this line, and my sew line goes from point to point. So now that I've done that, when I flip this out, look at that. It matches perfectly. I don't have, it's not a little bit off. We all kind of get it a little bit off when we do it the other way. But by doing this method, it comes out perfect pretty much every time. So then once you've done that, you're gonna go ahead and trim your excess fabric away. And you can use this ruler or any ruler. I aligned the 1/4-inch line with my sew line, and I just trim off the end. And there we go. And then I can go ahead and press that. And that is the first triangle on our finished block. Now we have these 2 corners. We're gonna do exactly the same thing, this time with the 2.5-inch pine branches. And again, we're going to be able to flip these out and press them. And you mark them exactly the same way we did the 3.5-inch square, except this time we're using the 2.5-inch line on the ruler. So again, top of the ruler, side of the ruler, 2.5, 2.5 in the diagonal. And then we're gonna draw our lines. Again, we have a big triangle and a small one. When we lay it on here, the small one goes to the corner. You're gonna sew point to point. Your 1/4-inch foot goes on the drawn line, and then you can flip these out. So very, very easy techniques to get these triangle blocks. So we're gonna go ahead and trim this guy up. Now you can just cut out the center fabric here. You could just take a pair of scissors and cut this out and leave that white background, but I don't like to have the excess bulk, so I do trim all of it away. And there we are, we have our finished triangle block, and then we need 4 of these to make 1 star block. So you'll take the 4, this is the center of your block, and you would go ahead and sew them 2 and 2, like that. Now I recommend, because there's a lot of bulk here, is to press your seams open, and I use a strip stick to do that. And we have 2 sizes, the 9 or the 18-inch. I use the 9-inch in my travel bag and my 18-inch in my studio. And what I do is I lay the seam on the strip stick. Then I use my iron, because this is an ironing stick. I start it and I pinch right here. So I'm pinching right there to hold it up. Pretend this finger is the iron. You put the tip of your iron in there, and if you just keep holding your finger here, it'll all just fall open. And you will have a nice pressed seam that is pressed open, and it works beautifully. It's such a low-tech tool, but it works so well. And now that I have this, I do a lot more complicated blocks that I do press the seams open to try to balance the bulk so it's not all to one side. Now, pressing seams open does make your seams a little bit weaker, but if you're using a high quality fabric and a high quality thread, they are definitely strong enough to hold the whole piece together. So again, I recommend pressing your seams open. So once you've pressed these seams open, you would go ahead and sew these 2 together to make our beautiful star block. And one more time, you would press that seam open as well. So once I have all my blocks done, which will be 4 of them, the pattern shows you a runner like this long runner, but I have a round marble table. So a long runner kind of hangs off the edge. So instead of sewing them 4 in a row, I'm gonna do 2 and 2 and create a topper. It's the same amount of fabric, it's just a different arrangement. So let me get the blocks finished, and then I'm gonna sew the topper together and I'll show you what it looks like. So here is my topper. So again, the pattern has you do 4 blocks across as a runner, and for my round table I chose to do it 4 blocks in the center, and it makes this beautiful white pointy star that I was like, it was a bonus. And then I added the words in the gold blocks as the borders. So we're all done with this. It's ready to go off to the quilters. I hope you have enjoyed this quick tutorial on how to make this funky triangle block and what to do with it, as well as the review of the Northcott fabrics. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell if you want to be notified each time I do a video. And once again, I thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next time.